Hello Celestial Shadowlings. In today's video, I'm going to give a witch's perspective on the Witch of Endor. Welcome to the video. I'm Zila from Sky Garden Tarot, and I'm really excited to talk to you today about the Witch of Endor. Some of you guys might have heard of her already. She is a character in multiple Abrahamic texts. So in today's video, I'm going to explain the story of the Witch of Endor. Then we're going to jump into why I think she's so interesting and explore a little bit her witchy archetype. After that, I'm going to give some tips for contacting and working with the Witch of Endor if that's something that interests you. How amazing is my teapot? And also, how amazing is my teacup? It has a little bat in it. So let's kick off this video with her story, her myth, and her legend. To set the scene, the story takes place in the Old Testament at a time of Saul, who was then the first king of Israel. Saul is an embattled king. He has been abandoned by his deity for disobedience, and he's also dealing with the onslaught of the Philistines, whose army is closing in all around him. In the past, Saul was able to contact his deity through dreams and through seers and prophets and other means. However, his deity is no longer speaking. There's nothing but silence. Saul is desperate. He is terrified. He doesn't know what to do. Upon the orders of his deity, previously Saul had driven out all magicians, oracles, seers, necromancers, and witches from the kingdom of Israel. Occult practices were now punishable by death in the kingdom. But in his moment of desperation, Saul decides to seek out one of these sages. He asks his men to please put him in touch with one such sorceress. They say there is one that exists, and she is known as the Witch of Endor. Saul and his men go to the Witch of Endor. Saul himself is disguised. He then asks the Witch of Endor to conjure up the shade of Samuel. Samuel was previously his wise man, his prophet, his teacher, and one of the judges of Israel. The witch protests, saying that she cannot do this thing as it is outlawed by penalty of death. But Saul promises her that no harm will come to her if she does this thing. And so, at his request, she calls upon the shade of Samuel. At first she is terrified. She describes it as a god coming forth from the ground. At the moment that the Witch of Endor conjured up the shade of Samuel, she realized that she had been deceived by Saul, and she recognized him as the king. She describes the shade to Saul, and he confirms that it is Samuel. Saul then gets on his knees and asks Samuel for guidance in this time. Samuel is angry that his rest has been disturbed, and he's also angry because Saul has been told that he is abandoned by his deity. Samuel then confirms to Saul that his fate will be to die on the following day with his sons in the battle against the Philistines. After Saul's seance with Samuel and the Witch of Endor, he is inconsolable. He will not eat. He's in a very, very bad state, and actually he hasn't eaten for a long time. So the Witch of Endor bakes some unleavened bread for him, and she also slays one of her calves and feeds him and his men. Although it did take some convincing to get Saul to eat and get him to rest, because he is a man who is beyond hope at this point. As foretold, the following day, King Saul and his 3 sons died on Mount Gilboa in the battle against the Philistines. So that is the story of the Witch of Endor. There are many reasons why I find it so interesting, and one has to do with my own personal story. And as a child, I found her a really fascinating character. I thought it was super interesting that there was a witch that had such power and that appeared in the Bible. One of the things that I found really interesting about her is how her presence in this story validates the abilities and the power of witchcraft and witches. The witch herself appears to have the powers of mediumship, some psychic abilities, some seeing abilities, as well as possibly even necromancy. I guess the question is she communicating with the dead, or did she conjure up the dead? The text is a little bit unclear about this. Another power that she seems to have is that of divination and prophecy, although through her it is Samuel speaking. And again, I think one of the interesting things about her is where does her power come from? Because the text itself claims that there's one and only all-powerful deity. So it begs the question as to whether the power came from that deity themselves. And indeed, if this is the case, then according to the mythology outlined in the discussed ancient text, then the power of all witches, mediums, psychics, and mystics in general must be afforded by that one all-powerful deity. In at least one Abrahamic text, her power comes from a talisman that she uses. But in the one that I read, and the one that I know very well, her power seems to be innate. The other thing that I find super interesting about the Witch of Endor is got to do with analyzing her witch archetype. There are a few commonalities in witch archetypes, and for that I think I might even create a series of videos. The witch archetype is often someone who is an outcast of society, who lives outside of society's bounds. She has been rejected and is often persecuted, perhaps hated, or even operates at risk of death. But just like the Witch of Endor, the witch appears to service a community. In the story, she is very well known in Endor. The other aspect of the witchy archetype here is that she possesses some dark and unusual powers that are not understood by those around her. In some cases, she might not even fully understand them herself. For example, in the tale of the Witch of Endor, she shows some fear when she actually is confronted by the shade of Samuel. Another thing I've noticed about witch archetypes and characters from myths and legends who are witches is that even though they are rejected by society, even though they are hated and outcasted, they're also the person that people seek out when the proverbial hits the proverbial fan. Basically, they service hopeless cases, lost souls, and people who literally have nowhere else to turn and who society itself has often failed. In this case, Saul is the hopeless case. He is the lost soul. And she shows him compassion and kindness. It's another thing that is really interesting about this story is the extent to which she goes to show him kindness. Not only did Saul seek to deceive her by wearing a disguise, but he also rejected her kind, and he punishes their very existence with death. Despite all of this, the Witch of Endor extends her hand of compassion and kindness to him. She offers him hospitality. She even goes so far as to convince him to eat and convince him to rest. She offers up a great gift by putting in the time, the effort, and the resources towards his care. The other thing that I notice about witch archetypes is that they are truth tellers. They tell the truth even though it is something that the person may not wish to hear. They don't cover it in fluff or embellish it. Here, the Witch of Endor directly tells Saul that he will face his death the following day on the battlefield. And then she chaperones him on his way by providing for him and caring for him in his moment of need. Even when Saul's own deity had abandoned him, the Witch of Endor still showed him compassion and kindness. In many ways, I see some parallels between her and the martyr Jesus Christ. If you would like to consult the Witch of Endor, I have some tips, tricks, and information for you. I've got it here in my trusty Book of Shadows. It's always super hard to find the page that you need, right? I put this in here so that I could find it. Book of Shadows problems. Okay. Our Witch of Endor pages. You would want to consult her when you need answers and when you're ready to cut through the BS. She will break you free of delusion when you're prepared to hear the truth, even when it's not what you want to hear. She is not, however, without compassion. She will help you face your fate or the consequences of your actions with love, hospitality, and grace. She will help you communicate with the dead and also with other worlds. So if you're looking for tips on how to contact her, you can contact her in the astral. So this can be done in meditation and in dreams, and a good place to meet her is in Endor itself. You can also contact her by scrying. So you can use smoke, you can also scry into flames, you can scry into clouds, crystal balls, such as this one, or into crystals. This is a beautiful amethyst that is perfect for scrying. It's also available in my shop. scry also into a black obsidian mirror. Another good place that I've noticed is in pools of water, especially natural pools. And of course you can use divination methods like tarot and pendulums, tea leaves and so forth. A tarot deck that I have found useful in working with the Witch of Endor is the Marigold Tarot. And just to have a quick look at it, because I have to show you. You know me, I'm crazy about tarot. This is the Marigold Tarot. It has this amazing gold marigold on the back. And then it's a pip deck, so it's like a Marseille deck, so only the major arcana and the court cards are fully illustrated. And then the rest of them are pip cards. But yeah, it's absolutely beautiful. Please focus. Yes, thank you. Yeah. This is a great tarot deck for contacting the Witch of Endor. It's actually one of my favorite decks for contacting the Dark Goddess in general. Okay, let's pop that one away. Back to the Book of Shadows. My suggestions for timing in contacting her are on the balsamic moon or the new moon at night, and preferably around 3 a.m. if you can manage it. And it's always a good idea to prepare an offering for her. An offering of grain or olive oil is very well received by her. Another offering can be myrrh. It's always good to offer her a pledge as well. So in exchange, you should show compassion or kindness to another lost soul, another hopeless case, or someone who's facing their own fate as well. I think she would find that very pleasing. Of course, oh, I need to put this down. Give me a moment. Yeah, and of course, it is always advisable when working with personified deity, archetypes, and energetic beings to do so in sacred space, in a protected circle, and whilst grounded and centered. Okay. You can light a black candle and anoint it with olive oil or myrrh. Cinnamon is also a good one to use. I've also written an invocation that I will share with you, so please feel free to adapt it and change it and use it as you wish and as you please. The invocation goes as follows. O Witch of Endor, hear my plea, from beyond the veil come to me. With power and wisdom grace this space and share with me your ancient ways. I call upon the spirits of old to bring forth the Witch of Endor bold. From shadow and darkness she does arise, with secrets and darkness she does open eyes. O Witch of Endor, hear my call, bring forth your magic, let it fall. With incantations and spells profound, may your presence fill the sacred ground. As the night grows dark and still, let your energy flow and your power thrill. Let your wisdom guide me on my path as I face my fate, protect me from wrath. O Witch of Endor, hear my voice, in your essence may I rejoice. For in your compassion I am home, and in your realm I do roam. So let it be the sacred rite. May the Witch of Endor bless this night. With magic and wonder may I be blessed, and may my fears be laid to rest. You can then speak to her. You can explain your needs, you can ask for her help and make any requests. And then of course, by the power of 3, it is done, it is done, it is done, so mote it be. So those are some tips and tricks, some ideas for you to work with the Witch of Endor. As always, feel free to adapt and change everything and anything I share so that it works for you. And remember that intuition trumps everything else that you might hear online or from me or anywhere else. How cool is my Book of Shadows though? Isn't it great? What do you guys think of the Witch of Endor? Have you heard of her? Have you worked with her before? Do you have any tips or tricks or experiences to share about her? I would love to hear from you. Do you find the story of the Witch of Endor as interesting as I do? Let me know in the comments below. If you would like a reading with me, please check out my website. I also have some really cool items in my curated online shop, so check that out as well. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like, please subscribe, and please hit that notification bell so that you never miss a video from me. Until next time, Darklings, much love and blessed be. So let's kick off this video now with her story, her myth, the legend, and maybe start that over again. 5 minutes in and nowhere. At the moment that the Witch of Endor... Whee! Witches definitely need more than tea to talk about the Bible. I'm struggling to speak today. Wow, this book is heavy. Whee! So much work. Okay. I'm struggling today. It's gonna be a weird video. Okay.